Crime, the third domestic policy issue. Crime is something that I can't see what to do about. Well, the main thing is not something to do directly with it, but I believe crime will fall if we have a motivated society that's going somewhere that everybody feels they belong to, that where people have got jobs, where relationships are better, and I see it a little bit analogous to the fact that tuberculosis fell from a date which was not the date of the finding of anti-tuberculous drugs, but the improvement of social conditions generally, and less overcrowding and more fresh air and stuff like that. So with crime, it's a feature of our society as a whole, and the fact that we've lost our way is, I think, a large part of the reason that crime is high. I mean, crime is obviously a bad thing to do, but just some things to note. We have a huge prison population. It's amongst the highest of the world if you remove the United States, which for various reasons has a huge prison population, Russia and its former satellites, and I think China as well. But otherwise we're much higher than Scandinavia and lots of other countries. And yet the chance, apparently, I've read a big Oxford book about criminology, the chance of going to prison for any particular offence in this country is less than it is in many other countries. So, but putting the high prison population and the low chance of going to prison for a particular crime together, we get really awfully a huge rate of criminality compared to other countries, for which we should hang our heads in shame. And I mean, criminality is wrong. I know there was the business of being tough on crime and on the causes of crime, and I can see that we should be involved in being both, doing both. But we do have a problem with crime, and I haven't got a magic solution. And I can see that we are swamped in some ways. We've had to accommodate to crime. We have triage of 999 calls to see which ones will get a response, or an active response or prompt response. And we've had to accommodate. We've sort of accommodated, in a sense, to drugs and to litter and truancy and shoplifting and stuff like that. I mean, I know. Probably people would take issue with accommodating to shoplifting, but at any rate, what can be said is that all these things cost us a lot of money. There's a lot of cameras, all this sort of stuff, and we are struggling to know what to do about it all. There's people engage in the cash trade to avoid paying tax, and there's an anonymity of society, which means that the shame of being caught doing something is less than it was. So I do think another thing is that when there was fuller employment, crime did fall in, I think that was the sort of the early 90s. I may have got the detail of that wrong, but certainly greater employment did a lot of good to reducing the crime rate. Now, before we get too tough on the prison population, let's remember that a lot of people in prison, far higher than the general population, have been in care or from broken families. They have poor education. They are in drugs. They have psychiatric difficulties. Unemployed, they're traumatized personally in some kind of way, and a lot are homeless. Let's remember that young men are perpetrators of assaults on other people, but they are also the main victims. about sex ethics. I'm conscious of the need not to say something wrong about this, but we do have a rather peculiar attitude to sex in this country. If you don't do it in certain ways that conflict with what the Bible says, you're odd. And if you do it in certain other ways that the Bible says you shouldn't do it, you're howled at with hatred. And I think we need to calm down about this. Obviously, we've got to do things right, but let's try and calm down and be a mature and less hyped up society. That's a deliberately vague term because I don't want to say things wrong. I think we need prison to be a nasty experience. I'm not sure whether it's right to have people with televisions in prison and various perks. I think being in prison is something that somebody should look back on as something they don't want to repeat, or when they hear that some friend has been in prison, they say, oh, well, I don't want to go there, so I won't do it. It should have a deterrent value, which I'm not sure that it has sufficiently these days. But I can see that the prison governors need a system of incentives for prisoners to encourage good behaviour and make them more able to be controlled and not to have riots and things like that. I see also that prisons should be a reforming influence, and yet for all sorts of reasons, for money and short sentences and people's unwillingness to work. Well, I mean, I don't know about that, but prisons perhaps aren't as reforming as they could be. It'd be nice to see them do more. And I can see that if a prisoner on release feels that he has been cared for in some way, that may help him to go straight. I think we've got a lot to learn from Scandinavia, where they imprison very few people. I don't think that necessarily means that we should let people off more. These are difficult things, and I haven't got a really precise answer. But I do think that if we can correct the ethos of the country and become a country where getting an education is cool, where we have a vision, and we're going somewhere, and we see that actually we're pretty lucky in the world, having stuff to eat and clothes to wear and a reasonably safe society in which to live is a good thing. And to work at preserving that and making that prosper and spreading good values and our influence for good in the world, then we'll be a society which is going somewhere. Such a society can work. Such a society will have a lower crime level, I'm sure. Thanks.